Now my first thing is I am going through the 3 questions, assignment 3, and you will get for the exam similar question, right? So, and I want to highlight that you have to read the question carefully. So we'll read this question. A project under consideration costs 500,000, has a 5-year life and has no salvage value. That is 100,000 is the depreciation. Because depreciation is straight line to 0. The required return is 15% and the tax rate is 34%. Sales are projected at 400 units per year. Price per unit is 3,000. Variable cost per unit is 1,900 and fixed costs are 250,000 per year. So first question is, part is scenario analysis. Suppose you think the unit says, okay, are variable for 5%. You have to carefully read what are variable. Sometimes some will not be variable, some will be 0%. So carefully read unit sales, price, variable cost and fixed cost projections above are accurate within 5%. Here all 4 are variable. What are the upper and lower bounds of these projections? What is the base case NPV? What are the best and worst case scenarios? Now, here we have to calculate for base case NPV. So the second part is what are the best and worst case scenario NPVs. So here we have to calculate NPVs. Sometimes I might ask, what are the best and worst case scenarios? So you have to only give the scenario, best case scenario and worst case scenario. You don't have to calculate NPV, but in this case, you have to calculate NPV. So we'll see how so we have base case, lower bound and upper bound, right? So base case unit sales 400, 3,000, 1,900, 250,000. So lower bound is 5% less than the base case. Upper bound is 5% more than the base case, right? And most of you got it correct on the best and worst case. Now, lower bound and upper bound are not best and worst or best, right? We have to look at the best and worst based on the figures. So base case is same. I'm not doing calculations here. No, calculations are done. How not detailed calculation. You have to do the calculations, and you get cash flow is 159,000 for base case. Right? Best case is you have unit sales high 420, price per unit high 3,150, and the other two variable cost should be lower for the base case 1,805, and the fixed cost is lower 237,500. So we get 250,084 is the best case NPV, and not NPV, cash flow. The worst case, the other figures, the lower bound unit sales and price per unit, upper bound variable cost and fixed cost. So you get the worst case cash flow, right? You know how to get the cash flow, okay? Right. Then we calculate the NPV. We were to calculate base case NPV is initial investment minus 500,000 plus this is the annuity factor for 15%. The 5-year annuity factor is, and for the exam, I am giving the annuity factor for you. You don't have to calculate. So you can use the annuity factor I have given for the exam for the calculation. And you get base case 34,340, base case 338,000, and worst case minus 247,968. So look at the break-even analysis, right? So in the exam, I'm not giving scenario analysis, break-even analysis. This is for the notes for your assignment. Given the base case projections in the above, what are the cash, accounting, and financial break-even sales levels for this project? Ignore taxes in answering. Right. 250,000 cash fixed cost to cover. Okay. Each unit contributes. We have to get the margin. From 3,000 is the sales price, 1,900 is the variable cost per unit. So 1,100 will cover when you sell one part of the fixed cost. Okay. So cash break even is 250,000 fixed cost divided by the margin. So 1,100, we get 227 units. Always the cash break even is the lowest because we are not going to make any cash flow, only to break even on cash. That is what we have spent, we recover. So we have another 100,000 in depreciation. So accounting break even is when net profit is equal to 0. So 250,000 plus 100,000 divided by 1,100, we get 318 units. Right? The financial break even is the most important one. So financial break even happens when NPV is 0, right? So we get Q is equal to, we know, operating cash flow into annuity factor. Right? So operating cash flow is equal to 149,156. How do we get it? Operating cash flow is equal to 159,146. How did I get it? That is from this equation, right? 500,000 is the investment minus OCF into 3.3522 is equal to 0. So operating cash flow is 149,156. Financial break even is fixed cost plus 149,156 divided by 1,100. It is 363 units. So it is the highest. So project that breaks even on a financial basis has a discounted payback equal to its life. Okay. Discounted payback is life. A 0 NPV and IRR just equal to the required return. So IRR will be, what was the required return? 15%. IRR will be 15%. NPV will be 0. Any questions? Any queries on the question 1? Any clarifications? So we'll go to the question 2. So we are evaluating a project that cost 70,000, has a 7-year life and no salvage value. Assume that depreciation is straight line to 0, salvage over 7 years. That is, depreciation is 10,000. We require return of 10% on such projects. The tax rate is 34%. Sales are projected at 15,000 units per year. Price per unit is 595. Variable cost 263, and fixed costs are 25,000 per year. So first part is calculate the accounting break-even point. So what is accounting break-even? When the profit is equal to 0. Right? So then when profit is equal to 0, operating cash flow is equal to depreciation. Right? So fixed cost plus depreciation divided by P minus V, 10,542. So degree of operating leverage, you might have to remember this. Degree of operating leverage is 1 plus fixed cost divided by operating cash flow. So operating cash flow, we have to calculate what is, we don't have to calculate because we know operating cash flow when the accounting break even is accounting break even, at accounting break even, operating cash flow is equal to depreciation. So though I calculated, it is again 10,000. That is the depreciation at accounting break even. So the degree of operating leverage is 3.5. Right. What is accounting break even? That is the number of units when net income is zero. So number of units to be sold when net income is zero is operating is accounting break even. So what happens when accounting break even? A project that always break even on accounting has a payback exactly equal to its life. Negative NPV and IRR is zero. Okay. So accounting break even is we are not getting any return. Right? IRR zero in negative NPV. So the degree of operating leverage is the percentage change in operating cash flow relative to the change in quantity sold. Right? So when the quantity sold increased by 10%, the operating cash flow will increase by 35%. Right? So it is easy to remember cash break even is when operating cash flow is zero. Accounting break even is when the operating cash flow is equal to depreciation, and the financial break even is when the operating cash flow when NPV is zero. Right? So that's how you have to remember. We'll see second B part. Calculate the base case cash flow and NPV. Suppose you think that sales projection is accurate only to within 25%. Evaluate the sensitivity of NPV to changes in that projection. So this is the base case, and only the unit sales are changing, you see, and because it is sensitivity analysis, right? How sensitive to the NPV to unit sales. That's why we have to do. So we calculate base case operating cash flow. I have used the formulas here. That is EBIT plus D minus tax. EBIT is sales minus variable cost minus fixed cost minus depreciation. Right? So it cancels off depreciation. And so finally we get P minus V into Q minus fixed cost minus D into 1 minus T plus D. Okay. So we get 19,768 as the operating cash flow. So the NPV is minus investment plus operating cash flow into 7-year annuity factor at 10%. Annuity factor is 4.8684. So we get NPV 26,239. So if sales projection or sensitivity, always we'll have to look at when the projections come down, right? Sales projections reduced by 25%. What is the operating cash flow? We have calculated. Then the NPV is minus 13,765. Now this type of question was evaluate the sensitivity of NPV to changes in that projection, right? So I think I wouldn't have explained to you clearly when I did this type of examples earlier. So we have to see how sensitive NPV to just calculating NPV is not enough, right? So NPV reduction, NPV from 26,239 to came down to 13 minus 30. So we get 26,239 plus 13,765 divided by, so 1.52. That means when sales projections reduced by 25%, NPV reduced by 52%. So highly sensitive. So that's the answer. If you have a question, you have to do this calculation and show that this is the sensitivity. But for assignments, I didn't cut marks if you have not done this way. Right. Yeah, we have done the B part also. Suppose the projections given are all accurate within 5% except for sales volume, which is only accurate 15%. Calculate the NPV and the best and worst cases. I think it is like the first question, right? So unit sales, now 15%, some made a mistake. 15% they put 12,500 or something. So you have to calculate 15% of 15,000 is, I think, 2,250. Right? So, and the others are only 5%. Right? So you based on that best case, you calculate. I have not given the workings. Best case cash flow is this. NPV is 78,000 best case minus 19,938. The calculation is same like the previous ones. If any one of you have a problem with the calculation, ask. Right. Third problem, third and the last one. So you are considering a new product. It will cost 945,000 to launch, have a 3-year life, and have no salvage value. Depreciation is straight line to zero salvage. Always depreciation comes first. So that is 315,000 is the depreciation. And here the required return is high, 20%. Tax rate is same, 34%. Sales are projected at 80 units per year. Price per unit will be 35,000. Variable cost per unit is 21,900 and fixed costs are 500,000 per year. So based on your experience, you think that unit sales, variable cost and fixed cost projections above are probably accurate within 10%. What are the upper and lower bounds of these projections? What is the base case NPV? What are the best and worst case scenarios? Now here, the question, what are the best and worst case scenarios? So you don't have to calculate NPV for best and worst case scenarios, just provide the two scenarios. And in this part, first part, unit sales, variable cost and fixed cost projections. Right? What is not changing? You see, unit sales, yeah, price per unit is not changing. Okay, only unit sales, variable cost and fixed cost. So if you don't read the question carefully, you might take for all the variables the change. Right? Similar to earlier questions, you can calculate, I have given P minus V into Q minus fixed cost minus depreciation into 1 minus T plus D is the operating cash flow. It's 468,780 and the NPV is 42,485. Right. Then the best case and worst case. Best case is 8872, right? If you give only this is enough, I have done the calculations in this, right? Best case and worst case NPV, but the question asks only give the best case and worst case scenarios. Evaluate the sensitivity of your base case NPV to changes in fixed costs. Evaluate the sensitivity of your base case NPV to changes in fixed costs, right? So what are we going to do? So base case So we have the base case. We assume 10% increase in fixed cost to 550,000. Zero missing here. 550,000. So and calculate the operating cash flow for that scenario. That with 550,000 here, we get 435,780. So the NPV is minus investment into operating cash flow into 3-year annuity factor. So minus 945,000 is the investment, you remember, and we get minus 27,025. Like we did in the, I think, second examples, we do what is how much change in PV has happened. For base case 42,485, now minus 27, so the difference is minus and become about 52, 62, 69,000 something divided by 42,485 and 1.64. That means NP will have 64% decline for 10% increase in fixed costs. So the NPV is very sensitive to fixed costs, highly sensitive to fixed costs. That means if we can reduce fixed costs by 10%, our NPV will be 64% higher as well. Third part, what is the cash break even for this project? So it is very simple. What is cash break even? Fixed cost divided by P minus V. Okay. Cash break even is fixed cost divided by P minus V. Right? So 38 units per year. And then accounting break even, fixed cost plus depreciation divided by P minus V, 62 units per year. And the degree of operating leverage at accounting break even point is 2.59. So the 10% increase in number of products sold will increase operating cash flow by 25.9%. I will go through some of the presentations we did in the 3 months of the course, which are related to the exam question. Okay. I think this is our first lesson, introduction to project finance, and you will get a question from this, right? So what is the project? How projects are conceived, the characteristic features of a project. I don't give the from the whole presentation, but you have to go through, and if you are familiar with this presentation, then you will be able to get marks on this. Right? The characteristic features of a project, the project life cycle phases. I would have preferred if you had open book exam, and I can give little tough questions, and my questions are very simple questions, because we don't want you to keep this in study and keep it in mind, because always you can refer. So my questions will not be trying to find that you whether you don't know. I am trying to find what you know. So these are the project life cycle phases. Same thing we said, from conception, definition, planning, organizing, implementation, operation, and evaluation. This is the project life cycle. From the evaluation, what we learn, we use it in the next project. Then we had a project finance definition, and I have broken down the project finance definition and point form so that for easy for you to remember. So, and we discuss the nature and importance of project finance, and we discuss what is we compared, actually this should be corporate banking versus project finance. We compared corporate banking and project finance, and we all know project finance is difficult because we are thinking of future, right? Not like corporate banking where you have the financial statements, everything of the past. But in a project, we have to look at only the future. So based on future cash flows, here based on past performance. Then we went through project evaluation and selection by a project sponsor. Then we went through project appraisal by financial institutions, because project appraisal by financial institution is having a second look at the project, because the project sponsor already have analyzed and decided to go ahead. And the banks who evaluate the project can give feedback to the project sponsor, project promoter, how to strengthen the project based on the experience the banker has, project finance banker has. So, and project evaluation is joint exercise by the promoters and institutions, not only one part. This is not like a fight between two parties. This is a teamwork to get the project financed. We went through these. So we appraised these areas, and you might need to know what are the areas, like major areas you have to appraisal of project promoters, management appraisal, market appraisal, sales forecast and marketing of products, financial appraisal, then all these financial appraisal, technical appraisal, and economic environment appraisal, and the social appraisal as well. So this is I think this is Right. So that is, there will be one question from that presentation. This was a, I think we didn't have a PowerPoint presentation. This was overview of the financing of capital projects, right? We looked at how the project financials, how to arrive at project financials, right? What are the cash flows we are going to take in a project appraisal, right? So what are we having? There are 5 basic inputs to project financials. One is revenue. When you have after the project, you have revenue. That is one input. Then the cost. So the operating and overhead costs are the next item. Then the third one is taxes and royalties. Then we need to get all these, we need capital expenditure and working capital, right? So these are the 5 areas needed are the inputs to the project financials. We had some examples. And here we are looking at each item separately. For this example, revenue, cost, taxes and royalties. There was a royalty in this case, cash flow, and the capital expenditure. And the working capital. Free cash flow is from the project financials, we get the free cash flow. Free cash flow is from what is the net cash flow. Free cash flow is the net cash flow. So the initial investments and the operating cash flows, you get the free cash flows. And here you have done cumulative free cash flow, you can get the payback period also in this project. Some areas we said in the cash flows, profit or earnings is not required for the assessment of the project. We are not looking at the profit. We are not looking at only the cash flows. So, and the another point was we said in the analysis of a project, we are not looking at how it is financed. Right? This is return on assets. We don't look at the how much debt, how much equity. That is secondary thing. We are looking at the project only from the return on assets. Right? Then the past expenses are excluded. Sunk cost. We discussed the sunk costs are excluded because we do the project or not, that expenditure already incurred. Okay, I think that's all. So there will be a question from this presentation as well. Then net present value and other investment criteria. Can you see this screen?
Yes, can see.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So this is another area we covered, and you see what are the areas. So we looked at different criteria to analyze a project. And these are the criteria which is used, common criteria, we looked at it. So for your examination, some of these calculations will come, like I can't say which one, payback rule, right? So average accounting return or average rate of return. You have to be familiar with how to calculate discounted payback rule, net present value. I think I won't give you IRR calculation because that is difficult, right? IRR may not come. So look at, study this as well, net present value and other investment criteria. Then this is the presentation done by whom? Risk in project financing. This is Dilunika Jayasinghe, and risk is very important area. So I am going to ask a question from risk area, and she covered these first key areas of concern in the project. That is the estimation of the project cost, then the financial projections. That is after the project is over, how the financial projections, and she explained the project cost, how project cost is done. Right, one side is the cost items, other side is how it is financed. Okay. And the factors affecting the initial cost, initial estimated cost, she took us through the design changes, right? And sometimes due to delays in government approvals. We know, I saw some the real estate projects. They say it takes 7 months to get about 14 institutions approvals. So unforeseen time overruns. Right? Because of that, you have interest during construction, exchange rate fluctuations, additional scope, difference in working capital requirements. When you analyze at the beginning net working capital, but after the project is completed, different, it has changed. Then the financial projections, you do different assumptions and do the financial projections. So what are the factors affecting financial projections? Inability to operate the expected level due to technical specifications and the raw material quality. I think in this scenario, due to the lockdowns and non-availability of raw material import, you cannot import your requirements. DSI Emirates chairman yesterday at a webinar was telling they can't import what they want because their exports are not very high, so they don't have dollars, so they find it difficult to import their equipment. And that was, I think, central bank director research. He was giving a presentation. Then he told DSI chairman, try to use local machinery, local raw material for their operations. Right. Inability to produce the number of units as projected other than the machine availability. So inability to price the product in the market, increase in direct cost, and we saw sensitivity scenario analysis also. This will change our NPV and the negative margins. Increase operating expenses than the projected level and increase debt commitments. That is, sometimes you have cost overruns, you have to increase the debt, so your projections, the financial projections will be affected. Then the risk. Then she went through different types of risk, right? And very important risk, and you might have to remember this risk: participant risk, completion risk, engineering risk, infrastructure risk, and the country political risk, syndication risk, environmental risk, legal risk, supply risk, and so many risks, operating risk, and foreign exchange risk. That is very much affecting people now. I think the project promoters, they would have estimated at one level of foreign currency conversion. Now it is higher. So your project cost, everything gets affected. So that is a risk. Then the market risk is very important risk, because if you don't have the market as you have predicted, then you are in trouble. The funding risk, force major risk. So I think what we have experienced now is like a force major risk. Right. So the risks are important. You remember as much as possible. Then do you need to have a break? Shall we have a break and come back by 8:10? Okay. There will be a question related to forecasting risk. You know, we said we calculate NPV, and if NPV is positive, are we going ahead? No, because why we are not going ahead? There can be some mistakes in our assumptions. Because of that, NPV can be positive. Right? There are two instances NPV can be positive. Actually, our assumptions are correct. That's why it is NPV positive. The second case is our assumptions were wrong. Because of that, the NPV was positive. Right? So I think this was under the financial. So this is what I just explained to you. NPV can be positive if all our assumptions are okay. So because if we go ahead, then we can have a problem. So that is due to the forecasting risk. So A project really does have positive NPV. A project may appear to have positive NPV because our estimates are inaccurate. So those are the two areas NPV can be positive. Similarly, NPV can be negative because the NPV is really negative, or because our assumptions are wrong. Actually, NPV should be positive, but because our estimates are inaccurate, NPV will be negative. So forecasting risk is our projections are not correct, but we will get wrong results. So you have to go through this presentation as well and be ready in the exam. So we have done calculations also today. This is in scenario and sensitivity analysis. So you will you are familiar with both techniques, scenario and sensitivity analysis. Then I already explained there will be a question related to the assignment 3. Right? So that's also there. So there will be 2 more questions which are general questions. There are 8 questions. 2 more are general questions, essay type. One will be on the project monitoring, right? How you monitor a project. The other one will be on the renewable energy, how you will finance renewable energy projects that you have to think and write. I have not covered because I cannot, for project financier should be able to think out of box and come out, because not only based on the notes. So those 2 are for people who can think and write, and you can have your own views, and that I will go by evaluate whether you have justifying your views. Then I want to go through another presentation which I could not make you. This project finance experiences. Did I share this with you? My project finance experiences? We shared project finance experiences of Akbo Bulumulla, then Mr. Aravinda Pereira, but these are some of my experiences. I'm first sharing with you successful projects which I have got in audit financing. Someone's has unmuted. Can you make it mute? There are some disturbances. So the first project was under ESDP refinance credit line, promoters, small family company. Did I do this presentation? Today, no one is speaking. Why is it?
Not remember, sir, this one.
You can't remember, no? Anyone can remember yes. which I have done this? Nobody? Okay, so I'll go through them. Not, no? Okay. Right. So promoters, I have a vague idea where I have done it. Normally, I keep a record. This one then we'll go through. Okay. Because you can learn from this, which will be helpful for your work as well as maybe the exam as well. So this was promoter small family company in marine engineering and project appraisal. So we have to check the track record, appraisal of project promoters, their track record. a small family company in marine engineering, no experience in hydropower. And you can't find experience in hydropower other than the Vidya Shilpa, who did the hydropower project before the scheme came in, World Bank's credit line came in. Then the credit worthiness and good customer of HNB Kotte branch, but did not possess any substantial assets. So other business connections. What happened to that? Right. Other business connections, it's a marine company. Management appraisal. So first appraisal was appraisal of project promoters, then the management. The owners, directors and management were brothers and family companies. So they were all were involved in the project. But there were clear demarcation of responsibilities. The eldest brother was the chairman and he was dealing with the banks and other approval authorities. Other brothers were doing the hard work. And the commitment, they had very high commitment, good teamwork, and integrity, caliber, and resourcefulness was shown by them. Then the market appraisal. Right? Now, in the hydropower project, that market appraisal is not a difficult task because if there is an agreement with the CEB power purchase agreement, then the market is established. Financial appraisal, capital cost was 210 million, debt equity 70 to 30, equity 60, and there were two banks, DFCC and HNB, 75 million each. So the question we have is the project cost reasonable? So the technical appraisal, hydrology study conducted by a very qualified person, and the designs of structures, weir, headrace channel, forebay, penstock, and powerhouse, tail race channel done. So M&E works, these are the M&E works, and plant capacity, to my recollection, it's 2.7 megawatts, and annual energy generation calculate. And we wanted to get a second opinion because this was our first project and the promoters are not very strong as well. So we wanted a second opinion. And we got it from CECB and got CECB also involved in the project as one of the shareholders. Right? Then in economic environment appraisal, actually it was affecting the environment in a way because there was this this is on the Unigathena Hatton Road. The water normally used to flow over the over rock face, but after the project is done, you can't see that waterfall like thing, and you can see only the channel and the penstocks. For someone who is not familiar with hydropower project, this is the channel. First, this is the river, right? And you block it somewhere, right? And then take the water along the channel to the forebay tank. And the forebay tank is like to stabilize water before going through the penstock to the powerhouse, right, which contains turbines. It generates and put water back to the stream or the river, and then get the I mean, this is like not grid connected. This is hydropowered workshop, right? So that's the example. Using the hydropower, the workshop will run. And here the water, there is a spill here on the channel. So extra water will be spilled and come back to the river. Right? There is colored thing on that. And the river is here. With the weir, you get the water up to the 4B tank, and the 4B tank water coming in penstocks to the powerhouse, and the powerhouse generates electricity and fuel. And I don't think there are too many hydropower projects remaining now, because Sri Lanka has utilized most of the hydropower, and because of the World Bank credit line from 1997, so many hydropower projects came into the beam, and with their experience, now they are doing hydropower projects in mainly in East Africa, and I think even in Bangladesh, like some South Asian countries as well. Challenges we faced: promoters' limited financial capacity, and if there was a project cost overrun, the two banks would have to finance it. And the technical viability, whether it is technically viable, because we take, as usual, everything mortgage, but if you take mortgage over hydropower assets, there won't be any value if the project is not viable, is not completed and working. And the managerial competence, achievability of projections, creditworthiness of promoters, and the project cost and generation projections, whether they are reasonable. I think Ms. Dilunika also touched on these areas in her risk presentation. Why did this project was successful? And we got this consultant from CECB, and even both banks were having technical people. Both DFCC also has engineers, and after I joined HNB, I recruited some engineers, and the willingness to take risks. And I always say, if the risk departments were there at that time in the bank, we couldn't have done these hydropower projects, because the risks were so high. Commitment for success, and the teamwork and the captive market, because after completion, and they did another project, I don't think HNB was financing that, and so because of the success of this project. And hydropower 2, Satganga mini hydropower project of Pan Asia Power. This is the project Akbar Bulumulla was involved. You can see the three he brought when he was in UK. He got these people, these three Britishers, to come to Sri Lanka to invest, come and invest in Sri Lanka. And Dr. Nishantha Nanayakkara was a lecturer at Moroto University, and he was developing on his own hydropower projects in Sri Lanka. So he had got a license, right? He had got license to develop a powerhouse, right? What he did was he sold it to the company, and that was his equity. So he got 20% equity, and the project was done. Project was financed. Project cost 135 million, loan 80, equity 55. Approvals in 2002, letter of intent and power purchase agreement. Yeah, in this project is the one Mr. Pedis had joined NTB as the CEO director. He wanted to join us, HNB, because they didn't have any experience in financing hydropower projects. So maybe I was told that was the only hydropower project they did. After Mr. Pedis left, they have not done at that time. Maybe now they are doing. Hydropower 3 is promoted by a lawyer and engineer, right? And financed by HNB. Reasons for success, that multiplier effect. Now, this lawyer, when he came through my DGM at that time, who was in Union Bank later, and then HNB director, now HNB chairman. And I told him, how can a lawyer do a hydropower project? Then he said, the promoter came with an engineer partner, brilliant engineer, and two of them jointly did the project, and they were surprised the interest rates, because we are refinanced, the rates were so low. This lawyer later went into real estate development, because after doing the project, then I didn't continue in the project finance. They have sold the power plant, and the lawyer went into real estate development. The engineer continued in hydropower. He's the managing director of wind power now, right? And the wind power recently bought the water project from this company, which this lawyer is. That is the waste to energy project, which was not going ahead. So the wind power bought that project recently. Hydropower 4, big project in Ratnapura, promoters to university batchmates and through their family companies. So one was the contractor, and it was a syndicate loan by NDB. I think 4 banks were involved. What were the challenges faced? Bankers having too much confidence on the promoters, because both of them coming with business background and one with hydropower generation experience, and so the banks were too confident, and that's why 4 banks, a big project, joined NDB Bank at that time. NDB, I think, National Development Bank, to finance that project. And it is a difficult terrain, and there were cost overruns. We gave a loan for cost overruns before the project was completed. Then there was a technical failure. You saw that 4-bay tank I showed in those pictures. First time when they filled, 4-bay tank collapsed, structurally collapsed and washed away. Then the partners also had problems within each other. The promoters had problems because one was the contract, and that structure failed. And the banks would have lost confidence because of this problem, because no one expected them to construct a project and it fails when the water was filled first time. However, the project was completed. The banks having faith on the outcome and the confidence of bank CEOs on NDB leadership. Mr. Ranjit Fernand was the CEO of NDB at that time, and we had a meeting, and even my DGM at that time said no more loans. Then I went for the meeting, and we decided we'll give another loan, and I came and reported to our managing director, Mr. Rias Vijay, that we need to give this loan. If not, we will have a bad project. And finally, all the banks gave the loan, and the project is running. And Vidul Lanka is now listed company as well. Promoters did not give up. It was a viable project, only this technical problem, and there were strong fundamentals. Then a structural steel company, one of the largest Indulanka joint ventures, a BOA company. It had a new technology called TMT steel, new product, and first to manufacture in Sri Lanka. And there was, those days, DFCC merchant bank, they invest in equity. So they invested in equity and loan funding by DFCC and HNB. And now this company, we had a lot of teething problems initially because of the new product established in the market. But now they are market leader in Sri Lanka producing reinforcement steel, 8 millimeter to 40 millimeter. This is GTB Steel. It's an Indian company. And the shareholders also changed during the cost overruns, production. We had teething problems. You have to visit a steel factory and see how people manage this because they have to heat them up to boiling level. Sri Lankans cannot manage that, but Indian labor is managing those factories. Market acceptability, penetration problems, and not achieving projected cash flows. And on top of that, shareholders change. Again, Indian party sold to another Indian party. And the reasons for success, and the shareholders and management not giving up, and the experience they had in Indian context. If it was not Indian party, they would have given up. And the quality product was quality, and demand gradually caught up. And the lenders supported. DFCC was the leader, they were very supportive. And the location of factory is in the industrial estate, and the cost optimization. So Indian, they will not spend on unnecessary things, and they use only spend only minimum required. Then this Candian Reach Hotel. So this was a facility which was in arrears. The project was not completed, hotel project, and transferred to Project Finance Division when I joined HNB in 1995. Right? It was in the commercial credit department. And 18 million rupee loan granted to construct a 20-room hotel with a swimming pool in Kurunegala. And the project was stuck because the promoters didn't have funds, and they had maybe cost overruns, and project was stuck. What I did was, and the promoters were related to our managing director, Mr. Vijay Thirikar. That's why the loan also had been granted. Some officers had said they don't have any experience because they were in the hardware business. And but then it has been overruled and loan granted. So promoters having different background, and landed proprietor from K-Gold, hardware business in Dambulla, and our HNB Dambulla Bank branch also they were the landlord. Lack of knowledge on tourism sector, and completion of the hotel was the challenge faced by us. What we did was, we got the project completed by buying their land. They had land in Dambulla, adjacent to our branch. We bought that land, and we bought a land in K-Gold, so that they got equity, and they got BO. They had BO approval, material at low cost, and then I introduced a hotelier to them, a consultant, and he changed. Earlier, the name they were using was Adgiri, because in Kurunegala, he gave the name Candian Reach. This is on Kurunegala Kandy Road. So Candian Reach, he gave the name, and still the name is there. And father was difficult to work with, but the son was easy. And opening ceremony attended by myself with Managing Director Mr. Vijay Thirikar. And still the hotel is running, and the son is running the hotel. Then the hospital project. We had a private healthcare industry was expanding at that time, late 1990s. Several regional hospitals were looking at options to set up in Sri Lanka. This Singapore hospitals was looking at, but one project started in Maradana but was stopped midway. So this is a major hospital chain with local partners with BOI approval. They were given prime land in Colombo 5. And NDB, HNB, I can't remember the other bank. The challenges faced was we haven't financed hospitals before, technical knowledge, and the promoter, the Apollo Group, was charging a lot of fees, and I think most of their investment was they took back. We got IFC guarantee as well, and the cost overruns. So reasons for success: brand name of foreign promoter, demand for private healthcare, and the teamwork of the bankers and the promoter. And that was now is Lanka Hospitals, which was Apollo Hospital, which was financed by Sri Lankan banks with IFC guarantee. Compared to hydropower hospitals, commercial buildings, low risk profile. Right? And because cost can be estimated closer to actual, income projections more realistic, construction straightforward, and less likelihood of delays. Still, there can be delays if the contractor is having problems, but there is less likelihood of delays. So those are some of the successful projects. I will share some not so successful projects as well. This project, I think we have discussed. Mr. Aravind Perera also in his presentation discussed this, where this US party with Sri Lankan conglomerate wanted to do tile factory in Sri Lanka, and that was syndicated by Bank of Ceylon, People's Bank, Deutsche Bank, and HNB were the other banks. And now this, I think I don't want to explain because we have explained this factory located in Corona now. That's the best factory of Royal Ceramics. They bought it for very small amount for a song from the banks. So the problem was we wanted to put some conditions, but the lead bank said the US company will leave. US company and Sri Lankan partner may not go ahead with if we put conditions. And we were looking at Sri Lanka FDI those days as well as now. So the loan conditions they didn't put, the technical know-how. So factory constructed the delays. We had a ceremonial opening. Production halted after, I think, maybe a couple of days. Cost overruns, banks could not enforce conditions. Technical expert, that's a Sri Lankan, misleading banks. And aftermath, after negotiations, factory sold for a song. Royal Ceramics commenced production on April 24, 2002. Hotel project, this is promoted by a conglomerate, a prime customer of the bank, located in Maravilla, 100 rooms, club concept. This project has been approved before even I joined the bank. And when I visited for the first time, the loan has been disbursed, major part, and not much work done at the site. So that is what you have to learn when you approve a loan. You have to disburse in stages and looking at the progress at the site with progress reports, inspections. If not, you will be in trouble when the loan is disbursed fully, but the project is not complete. And those days, very high interest rate. Reasons for failure is release of loan funds prior to equity investment, and equity contribution must have been low. Risk in tourism sector. Now, I think maybe the central bank bomb or something, then there are no tourists. Now, even now, you will see because of the COVID, the tourism sector is the worst affected and still cannot come from that death. Hotels still in operation, they made another mistake. I think that my DJ, who is HNB chairman, helped them to convert to USD, and then your exposure goes up with the dollar appreciation. Hotel project 2, this is by a vehicle exporter from Japan. Sri Lankan is living in Japan, is importing to Sri Lanka vehicles, and had a vehicle sales outlet in Nugegoda, and hotel was to be in Ambalanthota, 35 rooms, beachfront. And this party has come to the bank before I joined, and DGM has said we will finance because of their reputation. But when we were looking at, myself and my boss at that time, we said we can't because these are vehicle sales people. How can they do a hotel project? So because they have been agreed, we had to finance later. So they no experience in tourism industry hotels. So that is what you have to look at when you finance a project. What is the experience? How can they? Because without experience, you don't know how to even plan a project, how to get the architect drawings. The architects won't know how a hotel is running, so you need a hotel consultant, right? And main promoter based in Japan. Tourism ups and downs affected that as well. So there was no teamwork, no experience in the industry, the cost overruns, market segment not targeted, and it's a prestige project. They wanted to show that they have a hotel. Concept change subsequently to Ayurvedic treatment. Hotel still in operation, but one meeting we had at HNB Managing Director's residence, official residence, he said these promoters to take their loan and go to any other bank. So I think they went to Ceylon Bank, but somehow they are still running the hotel. Then the another project which has started because of the connections, right? And we have to be sure, we have to make sure that we don't do projects because of the connections, because the managing director wanted to do the project, we are not going to approve, right? If you do that without looking at the project viability, then we are in trouble. This project has been approved again before I joined the bank, and Siddhalepa Group in Anuradhapura, located just outside the city in a railway department land. Right? So project transfer to new project finance March 2015. Son returned from studies, joined the father in the business. Right. And Anuradhapura branch was dealing with the customer, and the manager was doing everything the customer was telling, because customers level was higher than the managers, and loan disbursed before security documentation. I don't think it is happening now in the banks, but even before the mortgage was taken, loan has been disbursed. The problem was Mr. Hettigood has got this land from I think Mr. Premadasa's government, UMP government, and then I think Mr. Premadasa died, and then government changed. He did not get the lease, and that was a big problem. So most probably less equity investment and the strained relationship with the bank. Finally, good relationship became strained. And luckily, there was no title to the property, no security to the bank. And what happened here was, finally that hospital, because of the war, army needed a hospital in Anuradhapura, right? So that because of that, they were able to sell it to army, and I think would have got some funds. Victory Hospital, Anuradhapura. There are some other projects like the DSI Samson Tiles. There because of a relationship, though we didn't feel the project was viable, we gave the loan. And now I think that is viable operation, but they went through difficult times. But because it's a group, they somehow manage the project. Then this United Breweries was a beer manufacturing facility in Mavatagama, because the government reduced some excise duties. Because of that, 2-3 beer manufacturers came to the market, and they did very well initially. Then the government reversed their decision, and for high alcohol content beer, they increased the excise duty. So this company also had trouble. Then Eco Power is a successful group which is in the power projects, and we have financed, most of the banks have financed, and there was this Dr. Ramesh Dayas Bandaranaike, who was the CEO at that time. And later, actually, after retiring from HNB, I joined for 2 months before moving to Ceylon Bank. And they are still doing well. They have projects in Uganda. I visited one Uganda project when I was there for 2 months. In this Lakdanavi thermal power projects, that was also financed by first thermal power project by consortium of banks. People's Merchant Bank only syndicated, and this Patodia is this HNB subsidiary Sigma project in Havelock Road. So other lessons we can learn, venture capital, we have to, if there are new projects, new technology or new market, better to direct them to venture capital rather than financing by banks, because the banks don't have that capacity to get into the new technologies. Banks should finance mature or higher, the growth level in higher levels projects, because they are more stable. And FDI projects, joint ventures, I think we find Aiken Spence thermal power projects, LTL thermal power projects, solar power, village hydro. There are several areas the banks can finance in the project finance. So that's why I have listed these, and you will have a, as I mentioned, regarding the renewable energy financing by banks, a question in the for the exam. So that's all. Any questions?
Exam will be 3 hours, right, sir?
Yeah, paper is 3 hours. So plan your time, because don't waste for one question, maybe 1 hour, then you don't have, only have 2 hours for the other 4 questions, right? So time your answers and don't get stuck in one question.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Right? I think Gamini is not sure of coming. Indivali,
Yes, sir.
Indivali, you joined very early today and then went out, but you were there, no, full time, these 2 hours. Subhashini,
Yes, sir.
did you do all the assignments?
Yes, sir.
You did, no, right? Okay, good. I want to check that. Yeah. So all confident of facing the exams. Nobody?
Yes, sir.
So are you ready for the examination?
Still more time we have.
You are lucky, you know, your father is looking after your children.
No, I don't have children.
You don't have children, but I in our WhatsApp group you are saying he's looking after grandchildren, maybe
My,
not yours.
my father is my sister's children.
Okay, right. Shalindri?
Yes, sir.
So what do you think? I have given a lot of tips for all of you for the questions because I don't want you to just be to keep everything in mind. So that's why I have explained to you
Okay.
what areas you will get. So be ready. And I want all of you to do well. Right? So what is there are 7 others. Maybe I will see you at the examination. Okay? All of you. First time, person to person. We were thinking of doing this revision class also at the classroom, but due to the situation, I think Menaka decided to have a online class. Vasana, anything you want to say?
Nothing special, sir. No.
You know, I am looking for a bank for my new company which I joined. Right? They are a construction company in the Janashakti group. And they are doing most of the project of Kelsey projects, group projects. But they don't have working capital facilities. They have about 4 billion worth of projects and 30 million facilities. Yeah. And so any banker who is interested in becoming my banker can contact me. Right? We can share information if you are interested. Okay. With that, I think we will conclude the lesson. If you don't have any other comments.